Hello, welcome to Know About History Channel. Hope you like it. The American officer who outsmarted a fortress without firing a single artillery round. 0410 in the morning, late summer 1944, a fortified town on the edge of occupied Europe. Lieutenant Colonel John Jack Waters stands in a doorway just wide enough to keep the rain off his map. The stone walls around him are thick, centuries old, built to stop cannon fire. In the darkness ahead, behind those walls, are concrete bunkers, interlocking machine gun positions, and a garrison that believes this place cannot be taken without hours of shelling. Waters listens instead of speaking. He can hear boots on wet cobblestone somewhere inside the perimeter. He can hear a generator coughing, then settling into a steady hum. The fortress is awake. It is alert. It is ready for artillery that will never come, because Waters has already decided something that looks insane on paper. He's going to take it without firing a single artillery round. The fortress was designed for one kind of war, a frontal assault measured in tons of explosives and blood. Its walls and bunkers are layered. Its approaches are pre-sighted. Every obvious avenue of attack leads into overlapping fields of fire. Any commander following doctrine would now be calling for guns, calculating calibers, shell counts, and collateral damage. Waters does none of that. Instead, he studies people. The defenders inside the fortress have been under pressure for weeks. Supplies are low. Communications are unreliable. They know the front is collapsing elsewhere, but they don't know how fast. They hear rumors. Rumors are corrosive in a sealed position. They turn discipline into anxiety and procedure into hesitation. Waters intends to weaponize that hesitation. Earlier that night, his column did something deliberate and very strange. It made noise. A lot of noise. Engines revved and shut down. Radios crackled openly. Orders were repeated loudly. Vehicles drove in circles just out of sight of the walls. Men were told, loudly and repeatedly, to stand by the guns. There were no guns. At the same time, small patrols slipped forward under cover of darkness, not to attack, but to observe. They counted sentries. They noted which gates opened at what times. They watched how quickly officers responded to alarms. They learned where the fortress felt confident and where it felt tired. By 3:30, Waters had a picture that mattered more than any aerial photograph. The fortress was intact. Its morale was not. At a 4:10, Waters sent a single officer forward under a white flag. The officer walked slowly, deliberately, hands visible, boots splashing in puddles. He carried no weapon. He carried a message. It was not a threat. It was a timetable. The message was simple. American forces had surrounded the position. Heavy artillery was already in place. Air support was on call. The guns would open fire at first light unless the garrison surrendered immediately. None of that was true. What was true was that the officer delivering the message sounded calm, bored even, as if this were an administrative inconvenience rather than a negotiation. Calm is contagious. So is fear. Inside the fortress, the commander read the message and looked at his watch. He listened. He heard engines. He heard movement. He heard the distant clank of metal and assumed it was artillery being emplaced. He did not hear shells falling, and that bothered him more than if he had. Because artillery does not arrive quietly. It arrives with intent. Waters understood this. He understood that waiting is sometimes more terrifying than impact. At 4:25, the American officer returned, exactly on schedule. He did not raise his voice. He did not argue. He simply asked if the commander needed clarification on the timeline. The commander asked how much time he had. Waters had predicted that question. 10 minutes, the officer said. Inside the fortress, officers argued. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted proof. Some wanted to wait and see if the bombardment actually came. Radios crackled uselessly. The outside world felt very far away. And then Waters applied the final pressure. At 4:30, he ordered his men to simulate artillery preparation. Trucks slammed tailgates. Steel plates were dropped onto rock. Engineers struck iron tools together. Someone fired a single rifle shot into the air, then silence. The fortress commander imagined the guns being laid, imagined fire direction centers calculating angles, imagined the first shell smashing into his wall. He did not imagine relief arriving in time. At 4:38, a white cloth appeared over the parapet. By 4:45, the gates were open. The fortress surrendered intact. No artillery fired. No buildings reduced to rubble. No men buried under stone. When American troops moved inside, they found ammunition stacked neatly, machine guns still warm from readiness drills, maps pinned to walls showing defensive plans that would never be tested. The defenders were stunned, not by violence, but by how completely they had been outmaneuvered without a fight. This was not luck. It was engineering of a different kind. Waters had treated the fortress not as a physical structure, but as a system made of people, information, and fear. He identified the weakest component and applied pressure there, precisely, repeatedly, and without noise. The traditional solution would have been brute force, shells until silence. That solution destroys the objective along with the enemy and costs time, ammunition, and lives. Waters chose efficiency. He saved his men. He preserved the fortress. He moved the front forward without pausing for rubble clearance or casualty evacuation. In the larger campaign, that mattered more than heroics. Roads stayed open, supply moved faster, momentum continued. After the war, no monument marked the spot where artillery never fired. There were no dramatic photographs of explosions, no ruined skyline to symbolize victory, just a fortress that changed hands at dawn because one officer understood something older than war itself. You don't always defeat a wall by hitting it. Sometimes you defeat it by convincing the people behind it that the wall has already failed.